An odd one this, it seems to have released to little fanfare, though announced many years ago, has seemingly slipped time after time. Don't get me wrong, I haven't been following the progress of Super Meat Boy forever with bated breath. It's just one of those games that was on the outer edge of my radar. The alarms always tend to go off a bit when a game just seemingly appears in this nature, but I have to give it the benefit of the doubt. This is billed as a direct sequel to Super Meat Boy, which I and many others are a huge fan of. Its devilishly tricky mazes of death, pinpoint controls and appealing aesthetic and premise just makes the original a joy to play even today. But I'm not reviewing that, I'm reviewing the sequel. The question is, how does it fare? And is it better, or at least on par with the original? And before I go on, please consider dropping a like and or subscribing, thanks. The game was announced in around 2014 according to my in-depth research, which is going to be a mobile version of Super Meat Boy. Fair enough, I mean, I'm not a mobile phone game fan in the slightest, and I'm not knocking any that are, they're just not my bag. But things change and it became instead a full sequel to Super Meat Boy. And design started to focus on console and PC instead. And why am I telling you this? It is relevant, I think, because it still feels like it was meant primarily for mobile devices. If you were looking forward to more Super Meat Boy with clever new mechanics that'll get you addicted all over again, then you may be disappointed. There's one key, huge difference between the original and this. Forever is a runner, meaning that Meat Boy, or whichever character you choose, runs automatically from the second you start. That lump of gristle is always running, left to right. An interesting choice and undeniably a good choice for a phone or device that has no method of control other than the screen. Forever has two buttons, jump and duck, both of which double up as punch depending on the situation. It's certainly important to make these comparisons to the first game, as many will just see an all-new Meat Boy and you must have it. How could that possibly be bad? So Meat Boy is back. And he's now got it on with Bandage Girl, and they've had Nugget, their bundle of joy. Dr. Fetus returns and kidnaps Nugget, and there you go. Stage is set. Go and save her. Now, I had a random thought, as I do. If lore-wise, yes, I know we're talking about an auto-running side-scrolling platformer here, stay with me. If someone stole your kid, trust me, you would stop at nothing, and you would not stop running in the direction they are to get them back. Though, obviously, this is just more a mobile-centric design choice. I can look at this in a couple of ways. The game offers a substantially different experience to the original due to this design choice, and it's richer for it. And after all, who wants an updated version of the original anyway? I can just go and play that, or the end is nigh. Or I can say, what have they done? This is not Super Meat Boy. One thing I loved about the original was the tight control over Meat Boy Master and his jumps, being able to correct mistakes and wrangle through near impossible deadly situations by the skin of my nuts. No more can you do this. Or at least not to the degree that you could before. Now it's just getting the jump about right and ducking at the right time. Should you end up facing back to the left and hit that side of the screen, you'll die. The staples of a tricky platformer are here, and the game does an ample job of introducing the player to its mechanics at a steady pace. You will start off with buzzsaws and early enemy mobs that are easy to take out, but as you progress you're introduced to broken glass, which you can only spend a finite amount of time in before you burst, toxic gas, exploding platforms, and so on. All of these of course start to accumulate together as you progress and build up into small puzzles in bite-sized chunks for you to master. So if we go down the route of what have you done to poor old Meat Boy, just throw him on the barbecue and be done with it, and look at it for what it is, an auto-runner / platformer. Is it special in its own right? And honestly, it's okay. Some parts I thoroughly enjoyed, working through the puzzles and getting through some of the nastier areas. Then other levels just felt a bit drab and lackluster, and this could be down partly to how the game randomly generates levels when you create a world. To surmise, it does not live up to the original Super Meat Boy. It has the looks, it has a great replay mode that shows each of your Meat Boy you lost getting ground to mush. It has secrets, unlockable characters, the dark worlds, and some fairly enjoyable boss fights. I really did like the pile of glass and syringe psychic blob monster, and the subplot running through the game of the avenging squirrels is really amusing. It would be easy to throw it under the bus and name it a cash grab, mobile trash, just riding the coattails of a much better game, and there is part of my game that says, yeah, that's what it feels like. Then there's a side of my brain that says, aye, but you've had a good time with it, and it just isn't really Meat Boy. All fair arguments, I would say. However, this is 17 quid, and that's probably about 20 euros or some such. And I would say this is only about a 6 or 7 quid game for my money. If you really want a challenging, fun or infuriating platformer, I would just say get The End Is Nigh, or of course boot up the original Super Meat Boy, or play Celeste. In fact, I was hoping for a bit more than this, and though a bold move to go an auto-run route, I don't think it's one that does the franchise any real favours. It's a different game from the original thing, and though not intrinsically bad, it's not great either. An issue I find is there are way too many instances where you know you have failed long before you do, and you just have to let it play out before you die. It's annoying. In other platformers, you can naturally mitigate potential disaster at any given point, solely down to the fact that you have full control over your character. One final thought is that Ed McMillan, the original creator of Super Meat Boy, is not attached to this project. He left Team Meat around 5 years ago and has had no input to this game since 2012, according to his Twitter. And I find it's often something I do see in sequels where the original creators are no longer about and the sequels or spin-offs suffer because of this. Just look at Diablo 3, for example, without David Brevik. A random thought for you there anyway. Why do I keep buying average games? I should probably watch or read a review first. Cheers.